Today we are reviewing the Last Hours series by Cassandra Clare. We are not just reviewing one book, we are going to review the series as a whole, my thoughts, feelings, and all of those bits and bobs from way back when, because I did read this a decent time ago. Before we get into this, right, I need to tell you a secret. Well, it's not really a secret because if you scroll far back enough on my Instagram, you'll see it. But I am an absolutely huge Cassandra Clare fan. Well, I definitely was. It's been a long time. Well, it's not been a long time since I've read her stuff, but the last thing I read from her was Swordcatcher, and that was a bit hit and miss for me. But I have this dog. But yeah, growing up, I've absolutely adored all of Cassandra Clare's works. I have literally a whole shelf down there, like you can see it, dedicated to all of her stuff, right? I've almost read it all. I can't say I have, I've almost read it all. But anyway, this is about The Last Hours. I'm pretty sure I've done other reviews, maybe of the first book on its own. If so, I will link that down below. This series is very Cassandra Clare, right? She doesn't stray away from what she knows, doesn't stray away from what's worked. It's very much exactly the same as how she does it, and in some aspects that's absolutely brilliant. Her writing is fabulous, right? The way that she builds a world is so in-depth and so detailed that you just kind of think, how long did this take you? On one aspect that's fabulous, but on the other aspect sometimes like you have to like skip through some of the descriptions because it's just a bit too much. But honestly, I can never fault it. It always grips you, it's always so interesting, and I love it. The only thing I don't really like is she is a fan of a long chapter, and I don't like long chapters because they make the book feel like too long. So yeah, I have to say I cannot fault the world building in this series at all. This series is set, I don't know, I want to say like a good 15 years after the Infernal Devices. So you've got really, what is the period? So we're in 1903, right? So it's the generation after Will, Tessa and Jem, who were the main characters in the Infernal Devices. So I have to say, if you loved the Infernal Devices and you wanted more of those three, then this series is definitely the one for you, because they are in it, they are parents, so it's about their kids, which is really cute. And you see Jem as, you see him as a silent brother, and it's really quite nice to get those little nuggets of their little happily ever after, I guess. They went through so much. I wasn't really like obsessed with the Infernal Devices. The Mortal Instruments was definitely more me, and the Dark Artifices is my absolute favourite out of all of the series, but you know, the other one was good. So that being said, as I've already mentioned, this series obviously links to other series, the main one being the Infernal Devices, because it obviously is about the kids of the characters that were in that one, but also the Dark Artifices, because that one is set in like, I want to say like 2015 or something, but the storyline, she's done this very well. The storyline that's key in that trickles all the way down, and its origins actually start here. So the reason that, is it Malcolm the Warlock? The reason that he's doing that, whatever he's doing in the Dark Artifices, actually starts from this book here, and there's a lot of context given to it here, which is I can see what she's doing. I like it. As if you are aware with the Infernal Devices, you'll know that like she is really good at that historical fantasy aspect of writing, and she really goes in on her research about the certain street layouts and what the buildings would look like and what the landmarks would look like and how they would be positioned in the actual time. I think I've seen in maybe an interview somewhere where she would actually come to London and walk the streets like doing the maps as if the characters were doing them, just so she could see that they actually made sense, which you gotta applaud the woman. Anyway, getting into the specifics of the actual series. So from the get-go in Chain of Gold, there's just too many characters. So you have Cordelia and the Carstars, and then you have kind of Will and Tessa, and then you have the Merry Band of Thieves. There's about 7 friends, plus then their cousins and siblings and parents as well. And like I need a list of all the characters, who they play, where they're relevant at the start of the book, because there is just too many of them. And I don't think they all need to be there. They're all kind of fighting with each other a little bit in the first book, and you don't really, because there's so many and they all get pretty much the same amount of spotlight, I would say, the secondary characters anyway, you don't really actually get to know any of them till book 2, so it kind of disrupts the reading, in my opinion anyway. But in book 2 you do get a few more point of views, you do get a little bit more insight into the brains of some of the characters, what motivates them, what their little sins and demons are, what they love and things like that. So it gets better on that aspect. I've written down that I don't think they're all relevant, but I think I felt like that because I didn't get to know them, I didn't know why they were there. Whereas I think all of the characters are actually pretty spectacular, but you want to know all of them, and I think all of them could do with their own little books because they are so good. And there is an underlying theme of just friendship, sibling love and family love, as well as like romantic love, but like platonic love is a pretty big theme, I would say, in this series, as well as obviously romantic. That's a big theme too, but you know, I think I quite like that, and I think that's quite different to her other series that she's done. So overall, the actual story and the concept was pretty good. Like, you got your typical like love triangles and like tortured hero and badass female heroine, you know, but the concept was really interesting and also very frustrating because of the actual plot. I did guess quite a few of the plot twists, but I don't know if that's just because I'm now so familiar with her writing that I knew what was coming. But anyway, it was really good, and the villain, Grace, she's very well rounded, and she even makes you empathise with her because of her situation. And I wouldn't even say she's the villain, she's actually the victim. So that's all I'm going to say on that, so I don't want to spoil it. It's quite complex, like I liked that about it, it's very good. And one thing I guess that she's done a little bit before but not really loads of, the representation in this series, considering it was set in 1903, is actually pretty decent. So you obviously have ethnic minorities there, form of Cordelia and Alastair, who are Persian, but then and also Ariadne, who I'm pretty sure she's Indian, and then we've also got some queer representation in there. Anna is female but non-conforming in femininity, if that makes sense. So she dresses very masculine and puts herself out there in a very masculine sense, always wearing suits and trousers, got her hair really short. And then equally we have Alastair, who I guess this is a little bit of a spoiler, and I'm sorry if it is, but he is also like gay. But what I really like about his character is that he's like battling it. Whereas with Anna, she's very normal in her like sexuality and outward appearance to the world. She's very like, and everybody just accepts it and that's it, which is a little bit weird because again, not historically accurate, but regardless. With Alastair, he really has a battle with himself about how he feels about love and who he loves, which makes him, I don't know, you can see the motivations behind why he does certain things, and then I quite like that. So also got representation of alcohol dependence and addiction with Matthew, who way back when did a really terrible thing again, and he then turns to alcohol to subdue the pain that's in him. But with everybody else, he just looks like a happy-go-lucky, cheery lad that likes a few drinks here and there, very much functioning alcoholic. I don't like how they kind of gloss over the overcoming in the last book. I have to say, I think when it comes to it and he outs himself and he kind of lays it all bare, it's great, but I don't think it's given as much credit and depth as the actual addiction part of it did, and I think we could have dived into that a little bit more. Considering it's 1903, there's a decent amount going on. Kind of going then into characters. I'm not going to comment on all of them because there's just so many of them. So originally, I think Cordelia is one of those that, depending on who you are and depending on your perception of her, you're actually gonna love her or you're really gonna hate her. Because if I was to read it now, I think I would probably hate her a little bit because I just might see her as a little bit pathetic. One thing I do absolutely love, and the way that the Persian culture is just really naturally just like interwoven with the book and the characters, and it's just so natural, it's not forced, It's not kind of imposed, or it doesn't seem like it doesn't belong. It's really nicely done, so I think that's really cool. So yeah, with Cordelia, she starts off right, badass heroine, she's got this sword, she's having a great time, but she kind of develops into a little bit of like a wet flannel. Like, she kind of loses that a little bit. But I guess when you're in a bit of a love triangle and you're married to someone who's actually in love with somebody else, that's going to happen, which is why I think you're going to love her or you're going to hate her. But I really liked her when I was reading this book. But do you know what, thinking about it now, I would say that Grace and Alastair are actually my favourite characters. I think it's because they had so much depth and were so well written that I actually really just enjoyed reading them because there was so much to read about. So Grace is effectively the villain, right? So she's ensnared James Harrendale, I think so. She's ensnared him, she's got a spell on him, she's making him love him, and everyone's like, what's going on? But she's actually the victim of her own situation. Her mother is an absolute psycho and is effectively using Grace for her own needs to bring down the Blackthorn family, the Herondales, just to bring them all down, you know? She hates them. So I love that. Like, so Grace is not only just doing what her mother's telling her to do because that's all she knows, but as the stories go on, she kind of becomes a lot more conscious of her actions and also what they mean, and does she even want to do them herself. So then you see her kind of flip and just consider things like as if she's got her own autonomy, because I think that's what it is at the beginning. She just doesn't feel like she's an independent person. She feels like she has to do what she has to do. And then Alastair, oh bless his soul, he's just a tortured little poet. His and Cordelia's sibling relationship is so lovely. He is obviously trying to be the protector, the brother, the father figure, but also battling his own demons. Like I said, he's struggling with his own sexuality and his feelings, and and also his own Persianness. I don't think he actually embraces it as much as Cordelia does, from what I remember. But his relationship, and I can't remember who he is in a relationship with, is just so sweet and so nice. And I don't know, I just love it. I think he's just absolutely brilliant. There's a lot goes on in book one, right? There's a lot of scene setting, so it's a bit of a slow start, because with any fantasy book, you've got to use the first few chapters to show you the characters, to show you the scene, the environment, where are we? And give you a bit of the lay of the land. So the one thing that Cassandra Clare does really well is that you don't have to have read any of the other series to have read this one. It definitely helps if you've read the Infernal Devices, because you have that added bit of context. You kind of feel the depth of the family relationships a lot more, but again, you don't really need to, because she adds that into the story. So book one is very dense in that it's a lot of characters, there's a lot of plot lines that have been thrown in, and you're kind of thinking, Jesus. Book two tidies all of that up, to be fair. You kind of get a slimmed down version of what characters you are interacting with. A lot more of the plot holes are addressed, storylines, sorry, are addressed, and it just kind of works a little bit better. Left on a massive cliffhanger, and then you go into book three, which I think is okay, but also I think it's not the best finale. But it's not the worst either. I think overall this is a very solid series to read. It's good. You've got your action, you've got your friends, you've got your love triangles, you've got your family, you've got your representation, and I think she does it really well, to be fair. So yeah, that's it. That is literally my series review of The Last Hours by Cassandra Clare. Like I said, you've got some really good characters in there. There are quite a few redundant ones, like Jessie, who's a ghost for some reason, and quite a good amount of subplots and side plots and things going on to keep you entertained, and a lot more that I guess she set the scene for if she wants to write further series that are connected to this. They all kind of link together. I really like how this series sets the base story for then the Dark Artifices and adds some more context there. That is stunning, because that series is my favourite. If you want a series review of that, you can click the links below in the description, because I have done one of those already. I like the dynamics of the Shadowhunter world. I like the way that Cassandra Clare has written them, and I like the way that it's all just been put together. It's just really easy. It's not a difficult fantasy read. The world is already really mature and built really well, so you know, she's a pro in this world. So yeah, that's it. That is my review of The Last Hours, which is Chain of Gold, Chain of Iron and Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare. Let me know what you think. Have you read it? Are you gonna read it? Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Fucking dog. They look nice. Ugh. Okay. Oh, look at that. Perfect placement. Record it. Oh shit. Yeah, okay. That is 2 videos down.